Alright, sup everybody, welcome back to the Path of Rage and our weekly update on Star Citizen. It's going to be a shorter one today than the last time, not quite as much information to go over, but some big information to go over. So, we're going to go into the episode of Inside Star Citizen where they talk about the very large changes coming to the cargo and elevator system and personalized hangars. And then we'll get a little bit into what they talked about in Star Citizen Live regarding the character customizer and a little update on the tests that ran this past weekend for static server meshing. I'm Rage at Games, and let's get into it.
Yes, I've been speaking with engineering, making money above the Yeah, I'll make sure. I'm happy about it.
Starting off with Inside Star Citizen, the devs got into persistent hangars and how this is going to change the way the game plays massively. Inventory is going to be gone the way it currently works. Now, players will have persistent hangars that will be assigned to them when they pick a home location, and these hangars will be based on the size of your biggest ship. This persistent hangar will basically act as your player home, with players being able to leave things lying around in the hangar whenever they want, however they want, invite friends into it, and basically treat as your own personal space. These hangars, when requested from a landing zone, the game will automatically look up whatever location that is if you have a personalized hangar there and spawn it in. You'll be able to hang out as long as you wish, like I said, so yay for no time limits. And this will be available only at your home location so far as they've said. Players will now call up anything in their inventory using this freight elevator, which they can do whatever they want with it, be it unloading and loading the ship, decorating, quote unquote, the hangar itself with your flare items. Again, this is your own personal space, and all of your inventory will now come up on a freight elevator. This involves the use of the new freight elevator kiosk. This shows the layout of what is on the elevator itself on the left side of the view, and on the right side of the view showing actual items in your inventory, similar to the way store kiosks currently work in the shops, say at the landing zones. Once the required items are chosen, they will come up those elevators for the players to retrieve. The kiosk will also allow players to place items where they want in the elevator, by the sounds of it, in order to make it easier for players to handle the cargo more efficiently. Some items will also need to be placed in container boxes when brought up, with multiple sizes of containers available, from 8, 16, 24, and 32 SCU boxes available for large items that can be placed within them and then moved and looted as needed. There will also be a new kiosk called the Item Bank, and this is what's going to replace the current inventory system by the sounds of it. As the devs said, that you will no longer be able to access the local inventory at any time. Personal inventory such as weapons and armor will be delivered to the player from these kiosks via a tray in the kiosk, and only the owning player will be able to retrieve these items. The item banks will be in the hangars for the personal ones, the habs, and other locations throughout landing zones and outposts and whatnot, so that players will always have a fairly quick access to their inventory if need be, and aren't constantly having to go to one specific location or being blocked by other players using these kiosks. Finally, there will also be new ASOP terminals for calling our ships, sort of new. You're still going to have the regular ones that are in all the spaceports and at outposts, for example, but now there will also be a new one in your personal hangar. When you request your ship from within your personal hangar, players will watch their ships rise from the floor on an elevator. This will also work with any ground vehicles the vehicle has. So you can summon a rock, for example, drive it off the ship elevator to the side of the hangar, then call in another ship and load the rock onto that ship without having to go to an entirely separate landing zone in another area to call them in. This is a huge and much needed improvement to quality of life and cannot be overstated. Putting ground vehicles into ships right now is a pain in the ass, and this is going to simplify it so much better. I can't wait. Players can call in multiple ships from this terminal as well, provided the last ship is not on the pad. So one player could summon a ship that another player takes off in, and then the first player could summon a second ship for themselves, all from the same hangar without despawning the first ship. This is going to make group play and getting ready for going out in multi-crew much, much easier. CIG has also said that yes, players will be able to fall to their deaths in this elevator, so you'll have to watch their step, and they will be taking measures to mitigate weird chances of, say, the player falling into this elevator pit and ending up in the inventory, for example. The hangar sizes have been increased themselves in order to handle all the different things the players might do in them, to a point. Small hangars are still the same. Medium hangars are slightly bigger, I believe. And then the large and the extra large hangars have all been very expanded, 20 and 30% respectively, in order to have room for not just the ships, but also to give the players the floor space around them to do all the things that they want to do, such as putting vehicles on ships and what. You have to be able to have room for them to go somewhere before you call in the next ship. This will be taken care of in the next update. This is also going to alleviate some of the problems that players have been having with, say, the Carrack or the Spirit. My god, that one's bad. About how it almost feels like you're going to scrape the paint and the hull of your ship just trying to land, with how tightly the hangar doors fit to those ships. Now they are going to be given an appropriate hangar size so that players don't feel like they're about to crash at any minute when they're landing. Again, this is a very nice quality of life improvement here. I and many other players are going to be very happy about this. It gets kind of a pain in the ass landing ships when you have what seems like centimeters on the sides or the front and back to get the ship in the hangar. When it comes to loading and unloading cargo, there will still be an auto-loading option. It'll be there as part of the commodities trading kiosk. Now you'll get the option to choose it, and auto-loading or unloading will cost a small credit fee and have a time limit for how long it will take. Pay up, wait a few minutes depending on ship size, and boom, cargo loaded or unloaded. The devs did say, however, that the ship will need to be stored for this to work. So we won't actually be watching cargo magically appear in our holds, or, which I think would be much cooler and I hope shows up in the game at a later point, we won't be seeing NPCs manually loading our ships for us. Again, I think that's a plan for much further in the future. I think it'd be cool as hell to see, but that's not what's going in right now. Again, your ship will need to be stored for this action to happen. CIG has also said that some locations will move cargo faster than others, depending on the focus of that location. Once the loading time is finished, players can then retrieve their ship as normal and head out as they see fit. This is a foundational change to the game overall, the hangars, the cargo, and it's been a long time in coming, and it's going to drastically change how things work, as this will affect not only ship and item management, but also the cargo loop as well. This will be a huge change to how multi-crew ships work, as everyone will be able to just go to one person's personal hangar, perhaps, and you'll be able to load all the weapons, all the ground vehicles, and all the ships that you need for that particular session. I am very much looking forward to these changes and getting my hands on them myself to run them through their changes. It's an exciting time for Star Citizen, and this is another big change that's coming that I personally can't wait for. Moving on to Star Citizen Live now. This entire thing was about the character customizer, which, if you guys remember from my video last week, I said is not of that much interest to me, so I'm going to sum this up a little bit quicker than I might normally. Again, just like last week, timestamps will be in the bottom and links to both of these episodes. If you're really interested in the character customizer, I do highly recommend that you go to the video and watch the whole hour. It is worth it if you are into the customizing thing. But in any case, CIG said that with this customizer coming in 3.2.3, they plan to have 60 heads available. Some old heads, some new. There's some hidden somehow. I'm not quite sure what they were talking about there, but regardless, CIG has said that all the heads are going to be up to the highest quality that players can expect from Star Citizen. They spoke about how cool it was to use the new Vertus system to, basically drag and drop the features of the character around to a person's liking. And I'll admit, even as someone who's not really into character customizers that much, that part's cool. They will be adding further hairstyles to give players more options when blending. And while players can't currently change their appearance once in game, CIG did say that they're thinking about like a barbershop style NPC or something to allow players to do so in the future. And that right now they want to give people the ability to just customize their character every time they come in and play with it to see how it goes in the future. CIG feels that the character customizer is pretty complete at this stage, and to be fair, it does look it. It is a good character customizer, and while it's mostly finished, they did emphasize that things always change in Star Citizen's development, so players should be aware that their character looks may change down the road if tweaks and changes are made to the system. Of course, anyone who does not expect this in Star Citizen at this point is not paying attention. Players won't be able to save their characters outside of the game, and there are currently no plans to add facial expressions to the customizer for people to preview. The hair and the beards that are being added in 3.2.3 now have official names: Star Hair and Star Beard. That's very imaginative. Both the hair and the beards are physicalized, allowing them to flow and move with the player, which, considering the focus of Star Citizen on immersion, that certainly makes sense. These are actually based on the original Starcloth programming, which makes sense to me as it handles the flowing of cloth quite well, preventing the clipping or whatnot. And again, it makes sense to convert this over to hair. Hair currently has a maximum length of shoulder length for both performance and visual reasons, with CIG noting that clipping is a big one here. They don't want hair poking through the backs of helmets and into the shoulders of armor and whatnot. When asked about changing player body sizes, CIG did say that this opens up a whole can of worms, as the entire game is based on size metrics, to the point where even changing the lengths of a character's arm by an inch or two or less would completely ruin a ton of animations that are baked into all of the characters. They use the arm example and drinking, explaining that just changing the length of the arm by even a centimeter or two would mean that the animation would be too high or too low to match up, and it just wouldn't look right. They agree that the idea of a universe where everyone is the same physical size and shape just isn't ideal. And while they are looking into ways to possibly change that in the future, nothing is in current active development. Again, just because of the sheer amount of work that would be required for even minor changes to the character player. We'll see how this goes in the future. I'm honestly not that worried about it, as long as there is enough variety in armor suits, in, yes, the faces for people, clothing styles, all that kind of stuff. People will look different enough, I think. Will it look entirely realistic? No. Will we live? Yes. It is what it is. I am perfectly happy to let the game be performant over being a little more realistic and immersive in, who looks like what everywhere in the universe. Finally, there was another static server meshing test held over the weekend, with a couple of focus tests on Saturday and Sunday, focusing on general performance and stability, and this wave was open to Wave 2 testers alongside the Evocati. Server FPS for this test was hitting in the 30s apparently, which is awesome for Star Citizen and bodes well for the future, as this will have a huge impact on how the game runs overall, but not just for personal performance on our machines, because that's not quite as affected, but the overall vibe and feel of the game, especially NPCs. A higher server tick rate means more information being translated, less desync, and NPCs, for example, moving in believable fashion instead of just standing around. I was sadly unable to participate in this weekend's test, so I'm really unable to comment on how this build ran. So if any of you guys watching this video were there for it, I would love to hear from you about it in the comments below. And that's it for this week's coverage of Star Citizen. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, give me a thumbs up. If not, give me a thumbs down. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about Star Citizen overall, what you think of the project, what you're looking forward to, if you think it'll ever come out. I know a lot of people are really down with how long this game has been in the oven for, and yet, you know, we see other games that have taken this long. Dragon's Dogma 2 just launched, and it took, what, 12 years to come out? Let's see how Star Citizen actually performs if and when it finally comes out. In the meantime, hit that like and subscribe button to help me beat the algorithm. 75% of you watching my videos are not subscribed, and I'd love to bring you in. Until next time, I've been Rage8 Games, and I will see you in the verse.